As the Nigerian populace grown under an unprecedented economic crunch, with worsening unemployment rates rising to 14.2% in the wake of double-digit inflation, and many small and medium-scale enterprises merely gasping for breath, the federal government signs into law a 7.4 trillion naira budget, which is based on the medium-term expenditure framework. The budget is taxed the budget of economic recovery and growth. But how does the federal government intend to steer the nation out of economic recession with a budget deficit of 2.3 trillion naira and a recurrent expenditure of 2.9 trillion naira? It's question time. Welcome to the program. I'm Benga Ashiru. Why not join in this conversation by sending us a comment on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. On June 12, Nigeria's 2017 budget was signed into law by the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, with over 500 billion naira, a quarter of the capital expenditure allocated to power, works, and housing. The big question is there any reconciliation between the 2016 and 2017 budgets? How effective is the procurement system in Nigeria? What happens to the privatization arrangements in the power sector and the robust advocacy for concessioning of some other critical sectors of the economy like mining, aviation, and rail sectors? Are these reflected in the budget? Is the federal government just paying lip service to reduction in cost of governance with a predictable increase in its debt profile and spending pattern? In setting the record straight, Channels TV crew caught up with the Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation, Mr. Ben Akabueze. We began by taking him to task on the budget process culminating into the 2017 Appropriation Acts. Mr. Ben Akabueze, the Director General, Budget Office of the Federation, thank you for joining us on this episode of Question Time.
Thank you, my pleasure, Benga.
Now, let's start by looking at the recently signed Appropriation Act 2017 by the acting president, which came a bit rather late, and that seems to be the talking point for many Nigerians, that the budget calendar has been altered. And when you look at the fact that even that came with some mild drama between the executive and the National Assembly over some priority projects like the Mambila project, the rail gauge, and even though that was later restored, but that took about an extra 1 month. From the May 11th, the budget was not signed into law till June 12, 2017. So how can we have a smoother and more synchronized budgetary system?
Well, first let me clarify. The budget was passed by the National Assembly on May 11th, but wasn't transmitted to the acting president until May 19th. And thereafter, we had to check every detail of it. And the full detailed budget runs into over 2,000 pages. And when we highlighted the differences between what was passed by the National Assembly and what Mr. President submitted, we presented that report to Mr. President. And thereafter, it was his call. As His Excellency, the acting president, stated during the ceremony when he signed the budget, there were some changes that the government felt, strongly that they needed to be, restored to ensure that it could deliver its objective in preparing the budget, which is, the budget is, named a budget of recovery and growth. And so
we'll come back to that. Let's look at some of the innovations this administration have introduced in the budgetary system now. We have a system where you've introduced the web page application where the different MDAs brings in their inputs into the budget portal. But even at that, would you say that has been able to prevent all forms of what we used to know as budget padding, doctrine, or even insertions into the budget? Would you say this has 100% guaranteed transparent process so far?
Well, first of all, I mean, what we have achieved that is that the MDAs, the ministries, departments, and agencies directly upload their budget. So there's no question of anybody in the budget office tampering with their submissions. Even when in the process of engagement, through the bilateral meetings, we conclude that there's a need for them to change something, we push it back to them to amend what they have submitted. We hope ultimately to persuade the National Assembly, and discussions began on that line already, and the National Assembly is receptive, such that we too will transmit the budget online to the National Assembly, and they can work off the same platform, and this will really further smoothen things in future.
Let's look at the theme, the budgets for economic recovery and growth. Is this about titles, or this is coming with more serious and pragmatic promise?
It's not just a title. I mean, first of all, it's the first year's budget in the medium term covered by our economic recovery and growth plan. And the budget, is fully aligned with, that plan. And that plan is about recovery, it's about growth. And so the budget itself is necessarily about recovery and growth, and being the first budget in that timeline, government chose to name it.
Now, do you see this draft document as a winning template capable of bringing the country out of the woods?
Well, we are already nearly out of the woods, thank God. By woods here meaning out of recession, but that's one. Remember, there are two parts, recovery and then there's growth. So now we must focus on growth, and we must then make sure that we don't walk this path again, certainly not sometime soon. And what does it take to grow? It takes, spending on critical infrastructure, which are growth enablers. It takes, funding some new growth, sectors. Agriculture is a major growth sector for us now. Its potential to grow, even much more exists, and so the budget seeks to, mining is an emerging growth sector. The budget puts money in there. Manufacturing had, declined. The budget, puts money in, initiatives like, the special economic, zones.